It's being called National Signing Day Eve, the last day Rebel fans have to wait to find out which high school football players will sign with Ole Miss. Lots of good players are up for grabs, but none more important than Robert Nkemdiche. NewsWatch's own John Monteith asked the question, will he or won't he?
Number one player from start to finish, number one in region, number one position. This guy has the size, he has the speed.
Everybody's talking about Robert Nkemdiche as he makes his long-awaited college choice tomorrow morning. Last football season, Robert's older brother Denzel Nkemdiche was a star on the Ole Miss football team. But now, all eyes are on Denzel's little brother, who's not so little.
He is 6'5" and just a shade over 290 pounds, and he is ripped up. It's muscle, that guy, and he can move. He runs a 4.6 40 for being 290 pounds. That's what guys in the NFL run. He's extremely talented. From an athletic standpoint, there hasn't been very many people like this at any position. He is, in all good senses of the word, he's athletically a freak.
Robert is the #1 high school recruit in the country and appears to have favored Ole Miss from the beginning. But how likely is it that Robert will play here in the Vaught-Hemingway Stadium? Students are optimistic.
I think he is a game changer for Ole Miss. I think he'll get early playing time, and it seems like a good way to start off the football season.
Experts say that Robert could be part of a 5-man package deal that could make Ole Miss one of the best teams in the SEC.
There are rumors that he's bringing a package deal, kind of like a 5-pack or a 6-pack of guys that are just going to go where he goes. Those guys are from Florida. Montravius Adams comes to mind. He's a big offensive tackle. He's a guy that would really help out the Rebels a lot. And so I think that a lot of those guys that are going to be following him around haven't even decided yet, and that they'll decide after they figure out where he's going.
However, Robert coming to Ole Miss would benefit more than just the football team.
I think that he'd be a great addition to our athletic department, but in specific, our minority population in general. I'm extremely excited about the event. He's everywhere. Everybody's been talking about him.
Going to be waking up quite
Rebel
early.
fans are in for an early morning as Robert kicks off signing day at 6:30 in the morning. Reporting for NewsWatch, I'm John Monteith.
Thanks, John. Now let's check in with NewsWatch's Nicole Bounds and Jordan Whiten for the latest concerning National Signing Day.
Thanks, Olivia. Well, Jordan, how important do you think National Signing Day is for the Ole Miss Rebels?
Well, right now Ole Miss is in the race for some very top recruits, and it's essential that we get these recruits. We're building the program around them, and if we want to build the program to what Coach Hugh Freeze is really hoping it to turn out to eventually, which is championships, SEC and national, we've got to get recruits, and we've already got a great recruiting class, 11, 12, depending on which site you're looking at, and we have the potential to have a top 5 recruiting class.
Well, right now, Ole Miss is in on some top recruits, including the #1 recruit in the nation, Robert Nkemdiche. Ole Miss has seemed like a long-time favorite for Nkemdiche, but after his visit to LSU this weekend, some Ole Miss fans are a little worried. What do you think about Nkemdiche's for signing day tomorrow?
Well, I mean, you can never know where recruit's really going to end up at. It's his decision alone. As much as like we try to speculate, you can really never be 100% sure. But I do believe Robert will end up at Ole Miss. He has his brother here, his family. He has family ties here. His family enjoys the environment here. Ole Miss Nation loves him. But along with Ole Miss Nation, you got to remember LSU, they're thinking they're going to get him. Florida, they're thinking they're going to get him. So it's really coming from whoever is speaking for their opinion. But honestly, in an unbiased opinion, I feel like Ole Miss is where it'll end up at.
I certainly hope you're right. Robert Nkemdiche will be signing tomorrow morning at 7:30. Another big name Ole Miss is targeting right now is South Panola safety Antonio Connor. Connor will be choosing between Ole Miss and Alabama. I know as a top recruit in the nation, it's hard not to consider a school like Alabama, but Connor has made several comments about wanting to stay in-state for college. What do you think Connor will decide tomorrow?
Well, I think ultimately Connor will end up at Ole Miss, but there are some reports of him ending up at Stanford, which I don't know how reliable those reports are. But I think it's definitely between just Ole Miss and Alabama, and I think in the end he will choose Ole Miss, but don't be surprised if he chooses Alabama.
Okay, well, Connor signs tomorrow at 10 in the morning. It was said that top offensive tackle Laramie Tunsil would be deciding between Alabama and Georgia. But a couple weekends ago, after a visit to Oxford, Tunsil could possibly be leaning towards Ole Miss. What do you think Tunsil will decide?
I think Tunsil's going to be an Ole Miss commit for sure. I know he came out here and had a great time on his visit. Thought it was a lot to be between the Dogs and the Tide, but Ole Miss, they made a great impression on them, and you can't argue with all the other recruits wanting to join you at Ole Miss.
This is true. Tunsil is scheduled to sign tomorrow at 9 a.m. And then, of course, we can't forget the huge battle between Ole Miss and rival Mississippi State right now for defensive end Chris Jones. Jones has been committed to State for a while now, but recently Jones and his family visited Ole Miss, and now some people say it may be a toss-up between the two schools. There's been a lot of drama surrounding Jones's decision, including claims of death threats. What's your opinion of the Chris Jones drama, and where do you think he will end up tomorrow?
Well, I feel like Chris Jones is going to end up at Ole Miss, but I feel like some fans in the same Mississippi for Ole Miss and Mississippi State, they're not doing good for their school by giving death threats and stuff like that. It's football. There's no reason. It's a high school kid. People have to remember these kids are 17 to 18 years old, and they have a lot on them already. And they don't need the added pressures of just random people tweeting them, texting them, calling them, just saying and doing stupid stuff. But ultimately, I feel like Chris Jones will probably end up at State. But I'm hoping that he will be at Ole Miss, though. That's about 55-45 chance right there.
I would agree. Well, thanks, Jordan. That's all the time we have. Now back to you, Olivia.